What's up guys? A very quick one today because I want to take you through what the best diet is. And it's very simple. The best diet is the one that works for you. Because it shouldn't so much be a diet, because that word has so many negative connotations associated with it. It should be a belief and a method of eating certain foods that you enjoy over a prolonged period of time that puts you into an energy deficit, so that your body is going to metabolize its own fat so you lose weight. The second thing, and the most important one out of all of this, is that it's a diet that you can replicate again and again to get to your desired weight or your body composition. Those are the two things that you need to remember. So let's look at 3 different types of diet that have all been tried and tested, but they all share something in common, which is they all place you into a restriction of some sort in order to generate a calorie deficit. First up is the calorie or macronutrient restriction, where you track your energy intake and the total amount of food you're consuming and work out from there versus your energy expenditure how much to reduce that by, so you're restricting the number of calories or macronutrients in your diet every day. To begin with, you would work out your calorie needs based on your weight, your height, and your current energy expenditure. This will give you your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, and from there you would factor in any additional activity that you do in terms of walks, workouts, sports, and find a number through these different calculators that suggests a total calorie amount that you should try and hit, which is below your energy requirements, usually around 400 to 500 calories to make it sustainable. But it's important to remember that this number is only a starting point. If you stick to this number, it doesn't guarantee that you'll continue to lose weight after the first couple of months. And this is because the body is constantly adapting. If you give it less food, your body will slowly think, oh, I'm not getting as much food as I usually do, so I'm going to shut down some of my other systems and processes in order to conserve that energy, because it knows that you're placing an increased demand on it elsewhere. So in response, you have to adapt those numbers over time, which is again another good reason why you don't do a crash diet. Because if you do a crash diet and remove a huge amount of calories to begin with, the body adapts, and then the only way to kickstart that weight loss again is to drop a whole nother load of calories. And then eventually you can see where this is going to lead, where you're just living off spinach and cabbage and not much else. And you won't be losing weight either. The biggest plus point is that you can choose whatever foods you want to fit that calorie and macro target that you get from the calculator. That means that you can be as flexible as you like with the types of foods you're eating, the flavors, when to eat, what to eat. It all just comes down to the total volume that you're consuming. So in one way, that probably doesn't make this feel as restrictive as some of the others, because you're still eating and choosing what you want to eat. On the flip side, one drawback of this is that you have to have some sort of knowledge and understanding of calories, of macronutrients, and also your energy expenditure, how much you're training, how much you're burning to make this successful. So for a beginner, there will be several weeks of trial and error to find the right starting point for you and your weight loss. The second type of diet is the dietary restriction, where you're removing an entire food group rather than a set number of calories or macros. These gained popularity and became known as sort of fad diets because they grab headlines. Now, these diets tend to have a far more immediate effect because, well, you're cutting out an entire food group, which we are surrounded by. All of this has just gone from your diet. So that's a huge amount of calories to omit straight away. There's no wonder why within several weeks your body weight will drop drastically. And also the fact that carbohydrates are the best macronutrient in our bodies to absorb water. So not only are you losing weight because you've restricted your calories, but there's a hell of a lot less water weight in your body because the cells aren't full of glycogen. By eliminating one food group, you don't have to track calories or macros. You don't have to weigh out your food. You just need to avoid carbs if it's keto. Now, of course, the drawback of that is how sustainable is removing an entire food group. Can you see yourself not eating carbs next month, in the next 6 months, over Christmas, your birthday, next year, next summer? And that's where this diet tends to come unstuck. The other issue is that you may miss out on essential micronutrients if you're removing an entire food group. Lots of vitamins and minerals are in carbohydrates if you reduce carbohydrates, or if you went on a low-fat diet. Fat is incredibly important in the body for hormone production and cellular activity. The final type of restriction that you can apply to your diet to try and lose weight is time restriction. So this is most associated with intermittent fasting, or there's the more extreme versions such as the 5 and 2 diet. Basically, it often goes hand in hand with a calorie or macronutrient diet because you'll have a certain number to hit, but you only give yourself a shorter amount of time in the day to eat those calories. Ergo, you should make it harder for yourself to eat as much as you would do regularly because you're skipping breakfast with intermittent fasting. Other claimed benefits include higher energy, increased output, better focus, a chance to get more done during the morning because you're not spiking your insulin levels. But this is all entirely subjective and based on the individual's experience alone. Because, well, if you're a manual labourer, there's a good chance you're going to need food and energy sooner in the day than a sedentary salesman who's on Zoom meetings all morning. A pro to this diet is that it's so simple to follow. If all you have to do is not eat until 1 or 2 p.m, then you're guaranteeing yourself to reduce your intake by several hundred calories every single day. It also gives you more time to focus and get stuff done in the morning because you're not worrying about what to eat. It means that you don't have to prep as many meals as usual, and that those meals that you do have are larger and easier to make because you know how much to put in them. You will also enjoy eating larger meals when you do break your fast, meaning that you may feel more satiated from having such a big plate of food, and that you'll feel fuller for longer and less likely to snack. However, from my experience, I can't trick my body into thinking skipping breakfast works for me. Sooner or later in the day, it's going to know that I've missed out on a certain amount of protein or carbs. But that's one factor to consider if you do go down this route of intermittent fasting or restricting the amount of time you spend eating, because it could lead to overeating when those feeding windows do come around, because you have some uncontrolled, unsatiated appetite that has just taken over your mind and you just want to consume as much food as possible. Another drawback is if you do leave so many macros towards the end of the day so you can have a huge dinner, there will be some days when you don't actually feel like eating as much, but you'll also feel that you'll need to eat that number and hit that target to stay on track, which is where negative relationships with food can come in, because it no longer becomes an enjoyable thing to do, it becomes a chore. So to sum up, I'm of the mindset that balance is best. If I can incorporate some ice cream, some sweet treat, something that's not quote unquote healthy or clean every single day, and balance that with enough fruit, enough vegetables, high levels of protein, then I think that is the most sustainable approach, because it's something that I can repeat again and again. It gives me the peace of mind that I'm eating healthily for myself, my body and my training, but I also am not missing out on what I would consider other people, the normal people, who just eat intuitively. I favour macro tracking because it allows me to be most flexible depending on my energy expenditure that day and that week. And it's because I've been practicing macro tracking and logging my nutrition for over a decade. It may be a case that you try each and every one of these three to see what works for you. Because the whole point of this video is to assure you that there is no right or wrong when it comes to a diet, because the only important thing is that it works for you and you can adhere to it. So as long as you are reduce the total number of calories going in, and also pairing that with some sort of training, which is going to place an increased demand on your body's energy reserves, by combining those two things over the long term, you will see results. I hope that's been useful, guys, and I'll see you soon.